Today, I'm talking about fearing the unknown. And how we run from it. But you're always up against the unknown. And although it feels like an opponent, and it feels like it's pushing you into a discomfort zone, the unknown is not to be feared. But conversely, to be respected and to be leaned into. So if you're afraid of the unknown, and you want to hear my spin on why we're afraid of the unknown, and how we can lean into it, and what does it do for us, stick around. We all want stuff. I mean, who doesn't want to do things? And I can tell you that with utmost certainty that everything I ever wanted, like truly wanted, I did it. Was it easy? No. Did it take a lot of time? Yes. Did it at times make me want to give up? But everything that is worth achieving feels like moving a mountain. And you will enjoy moving the mountain, trust me. And I'm using the words moving a mountain because Jesus said that if we had faith of a mustard seed, we could move mountains. But the ego does not understand how those mountains are removed. They're removed with a brush and a chisel. It is not just a Samantha Stevens nose wiggle. Although it can feel that way if you do your part. If you do your part, then life forces and the divine nature and resonance do help. But you gotta understand that it is at first this monolithic, clunky thing, particularly if you're trying to turn around a situation that looks hopeless. But if you want to turn it around, you can. You really can. You can turn around your health, your finances, your situations, if you want it. See, I think faith is very much tied into desire. It's like, what would be the point of faith and hope, which are very similar? And I can get into the differences, but what's the point of faith, which is believing that you can? What's the point of it if you don't have a goal or a desire to do something? And that desire has to be fueled by some kind of love. You know, if you want to change a situation like your health, your body, your whatever, you have to love that. I can remember being a young musician and wanting to learn these impossibly difficult pieces to play. And when you launch into something like that, like the very first time you sit down to look at a Bach prelude or some big thing, you're looking at months and months and months and months and months and months of deep work. But you can take it and refine it to a lovely musical composition. You have to have skills. Yep. So all that, you have to learn it. You have to understand the skills. You have to be refined. I mean, it takes its toll. But what's interesting about it is the very first time you look at it and put pen to paper, or the rubber hits the road, or your fingers hit the keys, you're making progress. It might be garbage. It might not resemble anything that it's supposed to. That's the thing. You know, when you get into goal accomplishment or desiring something, as you launch into it, it's not going to resemble the final product. I don't really think there are final products. They're just refined versions, right? We practice the refined versions of what we want. But your first go at it, your first step into it will not resemble anything. You will not be able to see anything that looks like fruit. And we have to remind ourselves of that. And so the small victories are what this is about. See, nobody wants to celebrate a small victory, like learning one aspect of a very complicated problem, or learning some aspect about yourself that you are actually more creative than you thought, enjoying the process of watching it unfold. A lot of us, however, fall under the illusion that we're waiting for a miracle, like a check in the mail, a big break, a grandiose idea. But every single thing that ever becomes a so-called final product is embryonic. It has to be birthed and nourished and cultivated and worked with, and there's persistence and there's endurance and there's determination. See, those are the aspects of faith that we don't think about, do we? We don't think about our part. We just think, oh, well, one day I'll just get my miracle. But to create a miracle is to chip away at it. That's why great artists and great musicians and great teachers and great speakers, they chip away at it. It's always related to some kind of skill. Even if you're trying to change your life, it's going to be related to knowing about yourself, which is skill-based, practiced. You got to know what makes you tick, you see? So I'm just encouraging anybody with a desire, I don't care what it is. First of all, I want you to know that you're going to be in it for the long haul. There's no shortcut to anything that you want. I don't care how simple it is. You're going to labor at it like an archaeologist, and you're going to scrape away layers and layers and layers and layers. And it's going to take a while, but the small, shimmery steps forward will add up over time, and that momentum builds because you begin to see little small, I call them vestiges of success. A vestige is a tiny, tiny, tiny mark of success that you've actually been able to move towards your goal every single moment. So it's just adding a film on top, like a layered film, or taking it away, really, however you want to see it. But celebrate your small victories. I'm celebrating a victory today. That's why I'm talking about it, because I was able to move forward on something that I didn't think was budging. So That's one of the beautiful parts about learning about yourself, is that you will always find a way. Little tiny thing. And every time you find a way, you build faith, you see? Because you're victorious. You're moving in the right direction. Yes, you might have still big obstacles, but you keep chipping away at it. You keep going, get closer and closer and closer and closer. And as your enthusiasm builds because of the small successes, life forces begin to help. You get the updraft of success, and you begin to sense that there's a little bit of extra lift in what you're trying to do. So those initial small segments, especially if you're learning something about yourself, don't discount that. That's so valuable. That's probably the most valuable part of tackling a goal or a project or having a dream, is the educative part of it. Nobody gets a skill without practicing. True success is tied into a skillful purpose that uplifts people and serves people. I spent so many hours refining my skill as a musician before it ever inspired anybody, before anybody noticed, before anybody paid me for it. But this is how it goes, right? So I'm encouraging you, celebrate the small victories. You are better than you were yesterday on whatever it is you're trying to work on or to build. The key is to get into that practice zone and work on it, no matter how small the victory is. Even if it's just coming up with the name of your business, to me, that's like a big deal. When I developed the title for my first book, I thought that was a big deal. Because a long time I couldn't get the right title. And then the feeling came, and then I wept. So I knew that was the right title. So a lot of times we have to cultivate dreams and cultivate ideas and work with them and see where we can find a way. Because there's always a way. And it's always smaller than you think. It's always something that you can celebrate. So I'm celebrating your small victories. I hope you're celebrating my small victories. And I hope this is encouraging and edifying to you. But first, you got to have a desire. If you really want to practice faith, if you really want to see if you can, you got to have a desire and make it huge, because there's a lot to invest, but that'll keep you interested and motivated, because the rewards are great if you can chip away at it and enjoy the process of having obstacles in your way. You'll be glad that you had those obstacles. They give you a lot of things to do, skills to develop, things to learn about yourself. So celebrate the small victories. My name is Ryan. I hope you enjoyed these insights. Please check out my blog. It's called mymorningmotivator.com, or one of my books on Amazon, and we'll see you next time.